news you can use.
Welcome to another edition of The Scoop, where we're providing news we hope you can use about area nonprofits and services that the government may provide that could be useful to you. I'm Louise Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of Tampa Bay Community Network, where the public gets to take video production training and to also put on their own programs. We're also on the web at www.tvcn.org. With me today is Tom Wagner, who is the spokesperson, PR manager for the Florida Aquarium located here in Tampa. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you for having me on.
I'm glad you're here. Well, will you please tell our viewers about the Florida Aquarium, when you got started and
Sure.
your background history?
We opened in '95, so we just celebrated 14 years, and it's been a great 14 years. When we first opened up, the aquarium probably got off to a bit of a rough start, and people who were in the area who remember that may remember some difficult times, but we kind of revamped what we're doing with the aquarium and our mission. And we went from being primarily focused on just education and conservation to adding a new element to it. And around 2001, when Tom Stork, our current president and CEO, came in, we added a new element to our mission, and that was to entertain, educate, and conserve the environment. And so adding that one word made a real difference because it changed the way we presented material. And we realized that as many people that come to the aquarium, if they're not entertained, they're not necessarily going to remember what it is you're talking to them about. So we decided to make it fun, make it memorable, and make it something that you're going to want to come back to and continue learning. So
You've made a lot of things interactive as well over the years, have you not?
We really have. We started the first guest dive programs so that when people wanted to come in and see the exhibit, they could actually get into the exhibit. So we have a program called Swim with the Fishes. That's for anyone 6 or older.
You don't have to be a godfather.
You don't have to be a godfather.
Okay, all right.
But if you're 6 or older and comfortable in the water, you swim in our coral reef exhibit. It's our largest exhibit, 500,000 gallons of natural salt water and about 2,500 different fish, including moray eels, barracuda, grouper, and a green sea turtle. And so these kids and adults basically snorkel, but they're on a regulator like a scuba diver. Mm-hmm. So it's an introduction to scuba at the same time. A fantastic program, and we offer that every day of the week.
How long do they get into the tank for?
It's 30 minutes in the tank, but the whole program is about 90 minutes long because we do a lot of education leading up to that. We make sure everybody's comfortable with the equipment, and then they spend about 30 minutes in the water.
How many sharks are there?
No sharks in the coral reef
Not
exhibit.
in that one. Okay,
right.
all right.
But if
The other one.
If you're a little older and you're a certified scuba diver, we have Dive with the Sharks.
Okay.
So that's for anyone 15 and older who's a certified scuba diver.
Okay.
They can actually get into Shark Bay. We have about a dozen different sharks in there, 5 different species. You've got white tip sharks, black tips, a brown reef shark, a couple of nurse sharks, and some zebra sharks, as well as a loggerhead sea turtle and a Goliath grouper. So you really do get to experience these amazing animals up close and personal. And the reason we started this was to dispel the myth of shark as mindless predator. A lot of people are afraid that if they get in the water around Tampa or Florida and there's a shark, they're going to get bit or something. But that's really just not the case. You have a better chance of being struck by lightning 4 times in the state of Florida than you do of having contact with a shark in the wild.
For a lightning capital, that
Or how about
be
this
right.
one? You have a better chance of being seriously injured by your toilet at home than with a shark in the wild. How about that?
By your toilet.
So
okay,
that's
wow.
how rare it is.
Okay.
But the media likes to talk about it when it happens, and so
Well,
the rare
we
instances.
do hear of an incident
You do.
at least once a summer.
Yeah, but more people die of bee stings every year, but you don't hear
Yeah,
about those.
we don't. But so the people that go in there, they have this wonderful new experience.
They do, and they discover that these amazing animals are not out to get them. They're actually non-aggressive, and they really don't, more than a curiosity, have any interest in divers at all. And if you talk to a lot of scuba divers with a lot of experience in the wild, they may never see a shark, or if they see one, they leave well before they get very close at all. And the problem with that message is if you don't see sharks in the wild, there's a reason for that, and that's because we're overfishing those populations, where man is killing about 1 million sharks, 100 million sharks a year, and they're slow to reproduce. It's a longer age period before they get to that, and they don't have that many pups when they do. So we're more of a threat to the shark populations than they are to us, certainly.
Now, that's some of the interactive that you're doing at the aquarium, but also there's some other things that you're doing that are entertaining.
Oh, definitely. We've just added last year a penguins backstage pass, and our penguins we added a few years ago, very popular.
Of course penguins are popular.
Penguins are popular.
They're the most adorable little creatures.
And we do something fairly unique at the aquarium. We actually bring them out to the guests. We don't have them on exhibit. They're not behind acrylic, but twice a day we bring them out to do a promenade in front of our guests. But if that's not good enough, then you can opt to do the backstage encounter, and that's called Penguins Backstage Pass. And you actually go into the back area, the penguin suite, and you really get to see all these amazing animals up close and personal. You get to pet a penguin. Where else do you get to do that?
How many penguins do you have over there?
We have 8 now. We started with 2, and we've gradually been growing.
Are they difficult to keep in Florida?
These are actually African black-footed penguins, so this climate is perfect for them. And so the 80-degree weather and whatnot is right along what they would experience in the wild along the South African beaches. So this is perfect for them. You don't need a coat to do the backstage encounter.
Oh, that's good to hear, so we don't have to get in the fridge or something
That's
like
right.
this. Or, do you have, that makes me think about adopted animal programs, because I know that I looked up for a friend whose grandchild was insane about penguins. You know, how do you get one? Well, you can't buy one.
Right.
Do you have adopt-a-pet programs?
We do. We have a lot of adopt an animal programs at the aquarium. If you go to our website, flaquarium.org, you can look up Adopt an Animal. It's under the membership program, but you can adopt a penguin, an otter, dolphin. There's a lot of different pets that you can do, and all that money goes to the care and the feeding of those animals.
So it's really directed right back at
Definitely,
the
really.
animals. Okay, well, I want us to talk more about some of the other mission-driven things that the aquarium is doing. But before we do that, we're going to take a small break,
Okay.
and we'll be... Welcome back to The Scoop. Today we're talking with Tom Wagner from the Florida Aquarium. I'm Louise Thompson, the Executive Director of Tampa Bay Community Network. Please check us out at www.tbcn.org. And Tom has been talking to us about the Florida Aquarium located in Tampa, visited, I take it, by all over the state.
All over the state, all over the country, really all over the world. We've been getting a lot of visitors from the UK and from South America. Mm-hmm.
Wow. You were talking earlier about swim with the fishes and swim with the sharks. And with swim with the fishes, you were talking about coral. And my understanding is that there's some concern about the erosion of coral, or problems with holding on to it. Can you explain that?
Yeah, definitely. The best thing that I can compare it to is back in the 80s, we became aware of the problem with the rainforest and how we were wiping out the rainforest. And people became aware of the issue, and it's really kind of made a comeback since then. Coral reefs are like the rainforests of the oceans. They're home to a myriad of animals, and about a quarter, at least a quarter, of all marine life spends some of their life in the coral reefs. It's like the nursery for a lot of the little fish before they get bigger and then head out into the open water.
It's something they have to be
That's right.
protected and do.
That's right. And our coral reefs, most experts will say that within the next 3 to 4 decades, the next 30 to 40 years, we could lose up to 80% of our coral reefs worldwide.
Because of?
All kinds of different things. There's boat strikes, there is pollution that we're doing in the water. If there is global warming, and that's debatable obviously, but if you believe in global warming, whatever the reasons, the temperature of our oceans go up just a few degrees and our corals start to bleach, and that bleaching oftentimes kills them. So whatever the situation is, whether it's global warming and we need to be aware of what we're putting into our air, or it's the pollution that we're putting into our water, and that's runoff. Here in Florida, we all fertilize our lawns. That's probably our #1 issue right there. Cut back instead of fertilizing 2 or 3 times a year, maybe only do it once. Try to fertilize before a big rain, because if you fertilize and then it rains, you get runoff, and that runoff ultimately ends up in our oceans and in our bays. So we need to be aware as consumers what we're buying and what we're using for dish detergent and laundry detergent and fertilizer on our lawns, and trying to cut back on the amount that we put into our waters, because they are having an effect on the animals there. And coral is an animal. A lot of people think it's a rock or a vegetable, but it is actually an animal. And in fact, it's the largest single organism on the planet. You can see the Great Barrier Reef from the moon. It's that big, but it's also in danger of dying in just 3 or 4 decades.
So what is the aquarium doing to help with this situation?
Well, we've started a unique program, and we've actually created the first health certificate for corals. And a health certificate is necessary anytime you take a wild animal, whether it's a dolphin, a manatee, a lion, whatever. If it's taken into rehabilitation or taken into human care, and then it's going to be released back into the wild, it has to pass a health certificate, which basically means this is a healthy animal we're returning to the wild, so we're not going to endanger the native species population.
Are they specific to the animal, these health certificates?
They are.
Okay.
They are. And there's
so
never...
you almost have to pass a test that you know what you're doing with the coral. Okay.
And up until now, there's never been a health certificate for corals. And we created the first one on the planet. So now we're doing a lot of the research to put aquacultured corals, or corals that have been saved from the wild, taken inland. We partner with the University of Florida's Tropical Aquaculture Lab in Ruskin. We grow the corals there, and then we divide them up and we plant them back on a reef just off of Key West. And
they will grow.
And they're growing. We're seeing about 70% success rate, which is fantastic. And
how quickly do they grow? I mean,
well, that's the problem.
Corals, they take a long time.
Trees grow slowly. Corals make trees look like speed demons. And especially the foundation of the coral reefs, which are the real hard corals, the brain coral, star coral, that kind of thing, they grow very slowly. And so you may only see a few centimeters of growth in a year. So it's a very slow process. And if we don't start now, it'll be too late. So you can't start too soon, and we've already started behind the 8 ball. So we've started this program.
So you're just hoping 30, 40 years that you have even just slightly more than we have now,
right?
Correct?
And the big thing about this is we started the ball rolling. We've created this health certificate, and there are countries around the globe that are interested in what we're doing. They want to take our research to their local governments and get the same sort of approval to do the same thing. Italy, Japan, they're all looking to start this. So this is a grassroots movement, but we're taking the next step. And the Florida Aquarium is in the process now of getting permitting for a 1-acre property underwater right off of Key Largo, where we'll be able to do much bigger plantings. So where in the last 3 years we've planted somewhere between 250 and 300 fragments, down there we'll be able to do hundreds at a time. So we're taking it to the next level to really start to make an impact. And hopefully other places around this country and the globe will start to take our research and do the same thing.
How far out do you go from our coastline?
Well, the reef off of Key West is about 5 miles out. And so depending on which plan you look at, a lot of the plans are 3 miles from the coast. And
okay.
So it just depends on what you're looking at there. And I don't have a lot of the details, but I do know that we need to be, especially in Florida, very careful about what we let happen to our coastlines. Because it's not just about the fish that are in the oceans. It's about the people who rely on the fish that are in the oceans, whether it's a sporting industry, and this state is huge.
Huge for fishing, yeah.
Yeah, tourism, or a food source. You know, our oceans provide the single greatest protein source for the world, fish. And so when we start talking about getting rid of our coral reefs or overfishing shark populations, the amount of effect we're having on the oceans is going to ultimately affect us as people on land.
I wonder how we're going to balance this with this need we have for drilling, as we say, or, you know, things that concern most of us. Like, is that going to be a good thing? Is that going to affect our underwater populations?
Well, information is our best resource, and it's the one thing we don't have enough of right now. We need to spend the dollars to find out what kind of impact these different energy sources are going to have on our environment, and also where are our water environments at right now? What are our fish populations? What are endangered? What are sustainable? So what's one of the things we're doing at the aquarium is to try to educate people on which fish are sustainable and which ones we should be avoiding so that those numbers can grow back. All of these things are very important for us.
Okay, I want to hear more about that, and I also want to hear about your project with shipwrecks.
Shipwrecks.
We'll be back in just a minute. Please stay tuned. Thank you. Welcome back to The Scoop, providing you with news we hope you can use. I'm Louise Thompson, the Executive Director of the Tampa Bay Community Network, and with me is Tom Wagner from the Florida Aquarium. We're talking about the Florida Aquarium. I've learned a lot about coral reefs and what's going on. You're also doing some shipwreck finding and
Yes.
education with regard to that. Would you talk about that? What have you found, and what can we
Definitely.
find out about?
We have a pretty extensive underwater archaeology program at the aquarium, and one of those aspects is our shipwreck project. We started a couple years ago, and we discovered, if you will, the USS Narcissus, a Union vessel that sank off of Egmont Shoals. And it's been known that it was there, but because it was covered by a lot of sand, no one ever really actually found it. So because of the storms a few years ago and maybe some dredging, a lot of that sand has been moved off, and you can see most of the remains down there now.
When did that ship sink?
It was 1866, January 3rd. It was a winter night. It was coming back. This is an interesting story. The Narcissus was in the Battle of Mobile Bay during the Civil War, and it was a tugboat that had been converted into a war vessel. But that's the battle where Admiral said, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead."
Oh, we got the quote, but not the ship.
Right, well, that boat hit a torpedo and went down.
Oh my gosh.
So they raised it.
He should have not said that.
Well,
Damn
you
it.
know, war is...
Oh my gosh.
war is war.
Okay, right.
But they raised the boat, and they actually were on their way to New York for decommission. And along the way, it was 1866, January 3rd, there was a winter storm, and they ran across the Egmont Shoals. The water rushed into the boat, hit the boiler, it exploded, and all 22 Union soldiers went down with the ship. So a sad story, certainly, but a very
Now,
interesting one.
how do you show that to the people come to the Florida Aquarium? What pieces of that can they see?
Well, we're looking at all the information now, and we're going to recreate either what's there now, the wreckage, in some exhibitry at the aquarium, or possibly even doing a restoration and show what it originally looked like, plus what it looks like now. What we're going to do is create an underwater park, if you will, so that people who want to go out and experience it themselves can do that. And Florida has a dozen or so underwater maritime historical sites. So we're in the process of going to add that one to that. And so leave that pristine as it is, but recreate it in exhibitry at the aquarium and tell the interesting story about the Narcissus.
That's it. Now you have a second ship.
We found the first Confederate blockade runner ever found in the state of Florida last summer, the Kate Dale. And she was a Confederate blockade runner. She was a wooden sloop that was burned to the ground, or to the waterline, if you will, during a skirmish between the North and the South. I tell people all the time, I've lived in Tampa for 19 years, and I wasn't really aware that it had any role in the Civil War at all, but it actually had a kind of small but very colorful role in the Civil War. So these ships all tell a story about Tampa.
Where's that one? Where's the...
It's in the Hillsborough River.
Where?
It's right near Lowry Park.
Oh,
And if
not
you know
far
where
from where I live.
If you know where the Lowry Park boat ramp is,
Yes.
it's just upriver from that.
But
And
we can't see it.
unless it's low tide. If it's low tide, you might see some wood sticking up out of the ground and you think it was an old dock. It's actually the Kate Dale.
Oh my goodness.
And so we're going to take these interesting stories, we're going to recreate some of it at the aquarium, and we're going to tell the story to school children who come in. You know, we see 100,000 school children a year. This is a great thing that goes along with their history classes back at school.
You're also doing something called the Echo Tour with a
Right.
with a boat. You got a bigger boat coming,
That's
don't
right.
you?
We actually just replaced our other boat, the Bay Spirit. It was a 49-passenger boat. The new boat is 149 passengers, so we're tripling the capacity, and it's our floating classroom. We take our guests out every day to see wild dolphin and other amazing animals that are on the bay, but we also have it for educational use too. So school groups can go out on it. Special events can go out there. You could get married out there if you wanted to, I suppose. And so it's our floating classroom, and we're going to allow guests to go out and experience Tampa Bay as the bay. It's a two-decker, so the bottom deck is all enclosed, air-conditioned, which is very important in Florida.
Absolutely.
And then the top deck is open, but it's covered to protect you from the sun. So it's a great touring, viewing boat of the bay. And these eco tours will start up again in June.
What are, in our last couple of minutes here, what are some of the other interesting exhibits at the aquarium? I've been there, and I know it's actually a very grand place to actually have a party or go there and have some kind of an event as well because of the atmosphere, and it's just a fun place with great views of the water and so forth. What are some of the other more important exhibits that you have there?
Well, we just opened up in October Ocean Commotion. It replaced our old Sea Hunt gallery, which was the fourth gallery, the last gallery before you exit the building. And we made it very high-tech. It's the most high-tech gallery in an aquarium in the country. And it has something called smart Wi-Fi. So as you're walking through the gallery pathway, if you have a smartphone or a wireless device, it knows when you've moved from Shark Bay to the octopus, or from the octopus to the rhinopia, and it'll send you content, video or text, based on where you're standing. And that's very high tech. We actually stole that. We stole that technology from hospitals of all places.
So in other words, now we don't have to plug in or walk around with something on our belt. Just pick up our phone and there it is?
There it is.
Do we have to give you permission to do this, or it's just some...
You have to select to do it. So when you go on, you have to say, yes, I want to do this, and yes, I agree to the terms, but it doesn't cost you anything.
What am I going to see on there?
There's a lot of different content, and we're updating it all the time. So if you're standing in front of Shark Bay, you might see another information about sharks that you didn't get just from standing there. Or if you go down to the octopus, you might see a video about an octopus doing something amazing that you wouldn't normally see, because sometimes the octopus is just kind of sitting there. So there's a lot of different content.
Okay, so that's true. That is something you want to bang on the glass. Come on out, I want to talk to you.
Yes.
Okay, well, I totally appreciate your coming and talking to us about the Florida Aquarium. I hope our viewers will have an opportunity to go and to see and experience and get entertained and educated. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time on The Scoop.
News you can use.
If there is magic on this planet, it exists underwater. The Florida Aquarium, Channelside, Tampa.